And welcome to the Big Bets on Campus podcast presented by BetMGM. I am your host, Matthew Cox, joined by the rest of the esteemed three-man weave contingent, Jimbo Root, Kai McKeon, yet again dropping to you another episode. Every Monday, we're coming to you breaking down the early portion of the upcoming week of college basketball slate. Monday, Tuesday specifically, we are putting the finals week behind us. We have Christmas break, the holiday break, and the beloved Diamond Head Classic out there on the island, of course. But we're going to talk the Monday, Tuesday action coming up. Fellas, how are you tonight? Kai, early thoughts. Jim, early thoughts. Go.
Great, Matt. I have nothing exciting to say. You're the one with the whole Earth paradigm shifting life
Yeah.
events going on.
Yep. Fatherhood,
Yeah.
Jim. Yeah,
Wow,
fatherhood.
welcome.
So but it was planned.
Congratulations.
It was planned. It was expected, which is great. So a little earlier than expected, but yeah, that's the thing. So shout out
Dad
to all
strength
my
is
fellow
coming on the
dads out there.
bets. Dad strength is coming on the bets.
Good.
And yeah, folks listening, Matt is grinding hard through like no paternity leave, no rest for the weary for this guy. He's here for you to give you winners.
Yeah, Kai and Jim had better litigation representation behind the scenes. The parental leave was limited to 3 days, so
Yes.
tough. But hey,
That's right.
it's a bottom line organization. Times are tough, and you got to just roll up the old sleeves and cap the cards. Before we get into the 6-pack plus one of sections, I just want to do a quick overview of the schedule. I just always think it's nice to look ahead at the upcoming week, which changes every week until you get to conference play. Um, so Monday's light, Tuesday, Wednesday heavy, Thursday is weirdly quiet, Friday is quiet, and then Saturday is massive. And then we turn into the Christmas week, which is sort of weird. Then the week after is when conference play really gets into full swing, and that's what will be a little more of a nice little routine. So I kind of like the non-con because you have some of these weird non-conference scheduling quirks, and we'll talk about some of those today. But first, let's get into the big games. Tuesday is where most of them are housed. We have three, I would say, semi-premier major conference matchups. So Florida, North Carolina. This is at a neutral. Jumpman Classic, I think, in Charlotte, North Carolina, I believe is where it's located. Clemson at South Carolina. Big rivalry there in the Gamecock State. That's not what it's called. The Palmetto State. Thank you. And
Very
then
good.
Seton Hall at Villanova is our third. Interesting games here. Let's start Villanova. Are they back, guys? Kind of good recently. Beating good teams. Not
Yeah, they're
terribly
right
shitting
around
the bed against bad teams.
Right around 50th in Ken Palm. It's not a complete mockery of a program, which unfortunately that's kind of where Seton Hall lands right now.
Yeah.
They're the one that's circling the drain with a lack of talent. Clear best player on the floor is Villanova. But Kai, I talked about it with Seton Hall and Rutgers on Saturday. I think this Pirates team is going to be a feisty
Yep.
underdog.
Yes.
Junk up the game,
Totally.
slow it down. They're going to get double digits against Villanova. I'm probably going to be going with Holloway in a major coaching edge over Neptune.
Yeah, I wrote the exact same thing down. Hall's a tough dog. Very difficult to blow them out because of how good their defense is. I don't think they have a matchup for Eric Dixon. I think he'll do whatever he wants.
Yeah,
He does
no one
whatever he
does.
wants any game.
Yeah.
At least they have some mobility up front in their front court. They're not like plotting bigs, so they can chase him on the perimeter a bit. It won't matter. Dixon will score however many points he wants, but it's a ton of points to lay with a Nova squad I still don't trust under Kyle Neptune. Yeah, Holloway versus Neptune. Give me Mr. Holloway. Double digits would be a Seton Hall play for sure.
I agree. And KenPom has this at 11. So again, we try and project what the spreads could be, but obviously the market has been more and more opinionated, I'd say, as we've seen in recent years. So tread lightly with that expectation. I think this could be a high variance, maybe a money line special for the Hall, the Pirates. However, I wonder if they're going to be just deflated off of the Dylan Harper buzzer beater from the weekend. Like that could be a bounce back, or it could be just like an emotional snap of, that just ruins the entire season, especially for a team that's hovering around 500. But back to Florida UNC quickly, probably the best game of two high-end caliber teams. The question here comes down to two things. One is how much home court value do you think UNC deserves in Charlotte? And the second is how big of a disadvantage will UNC be on the glass against Florida's vaunted front line, which actually might be the lesser of the two parts of the roster with how good their guards are playing. But Jim, Florida, I don't know how good they can be, but they are a comment right now, a freight train I have no desire to get in front of from a betting perspective.
Yeah, no chance I'm going to bet against Florida. I mean, they've won every game by double digits. We thought maybe Arizona State would be the one that gives them a challenge on Saturday, and they dispatched them by 17, completely control the game start to finish. It does, like you're saying, Matt, I don't know what to do with my rating on Florida. Like I keep raising it. I keep being behind the times, and Kyle was glad the market is what kept me off of Arizona State on Saturday. I was looking to pick up a 9 or 9.5, and the market scooped those up, kept me away. I will be likely on Gators or nothing here. North Carolina's been awful in first halves all season. They dig themselves a hole every game, even in bye games. They kind of play with their food and then extend late or blow teams out in the second half. Florida's too good to have a slow start against. And if North Carolina does that, I think Florida's going to feel pretty good. And as Matt mentioned, Kai, the offensive glass against the Washington Lubin front line, I think that's where the Gators are going to have major success.
Yeah, I'm starting to buy Florida all the way. Maybe I'm late to the party. Again, it sucks that we loved these Gators the last couple of years. Now finally they're a top 10 team. UNC's their toughest challenge. Let's put it into perspective. Florida hasn't played a top 50 team yet in KenPom. It's splitting hairs a little bit with Arizona State being just outside of that, but still, UNC their toughest challenge. I think the Gator size, though, you guys hit it. It's a huge problem. Two true bigs against a younger UNC front court. Excuse me. Yeah, I like the Gator toughness, and their size in the perimeter too. I think is a big deal against UNC smaller guards. So I do like Florida in this game.
Yeah, Matt, does Elijah Martin swallow up RJ Davis? Is that where they throw Martin, the complete stopper
I would
on
think
the perimeter?
so.
Yeah.
The UNC's guards are everyone picks on their front line because they're obviously not good, brittle, but their guards are so fast. The problem is Florida's guards are really fast and they're big and they're physical, and that's sort of where they can, I think, bother the tar bums, as I call it, as a former Duke fan. I'm still a Duke fan, but
former Duke fan.
Wow, that's the first I've heard of former Duke fan.
Yeah, my allegiances to IU and Duke continue to. I'm a practical handicapper, Kai. I have no allegiances. Yes. I bet numbers, not teams, as some famous handicapper I think said once. Speaking of SEC, real quick, Clemson, South Carolina. If you're a believer in this SEC thing, where in terms of conference performance, it's hard to argue with how good they've been. Only four teams are sub 500 against the spread in the SEC so far in the non-con. Wow. South Carolina, though, is one of those teams, 4-6. I've been less than impressed with them. I do link Clemson coming off that weird OT loss to Memphis for a game that was played at 10 a.m. Central Time. Just the stupidest start time. So I kind of give Clemson a pass for that loss. So of these three, I think I like Seton Hall, I like Florida, and I like Clemson. I don't know if I'm going to play them officially. We'll see.
Yeah, definitely playing Hall. Clemson, yeah, big rivalry. I still left impressed with Clemson after the Memphis game. I bet on Memphis. I was happy with the result, but Victor Locken's been awesome. I think they have a big rebounding edge against South Carolina, a lot of versatility to throw at Murray Boyles. Him versus Chef's going to be a fun little matchup. I just think Clemson's the much better team. And yeah, South Carolina's the one. They're not bad, but they are the quote-unquote weakest link in the SEC.
The Loch Ness Monster, Kai. Victor Locken. Monster. He's like making jump shots. It's weird. That's what Cincinnati fans are all mad at him, because he had a big game where he made a bunch of shots and then he couldn't the rest of the year, but thought he could. And now here he is knocking down jumpers for them. I think I would probably have gone South Carolina if Clemson had beaten Memphis. But coming off the loss, you just get him a little bit more locked in. That kind of scares me. Yeah. I don't know, Matt, you mentioned the SEC. I don't know if you guys saw the stat I retweeted from Bart Torvik today. In top 100 caliber games, the SEC is 50-19. The second best league is 24-30. 24-30, and they're 50-19. Wow. The ACC is 19-52. So it's hard for me to want to go to war with an ACC team against an SEC team, although Clemson was one of the two ACC teams to win in the challenge. But this one's probably the closest to a stay away of these. I'll be on Seton Hall, like you guys said, at double digits, and thinking about Florida. I kind of want to ride the streak there.
Yeah, every team in the SEC has a marquee win of some sort already. Even like Texas, who's been sort of beat really bad teams by a lot and then kind of not look good against good teams. They won at NC State, which is, I don't know, not that impressive, but still notable. So yeah, there's no weak links in that conference. Let's go to the mid-major section here. 3 games. Let's hit them pretty quickly. Not a really great week for mid-major showdowns, to be blunt, but there are a few notables in sort of the high mid-major domain. Grand Canyon at Louisiana Tech, WAC versus Conference USA. Same with Seattle at Western Kentucky. The GCU La Tech on Monday, Seattle, Western Kentucky on Tuesday. And then out west again, Utah State hosting UC San Diego. The Tritons, as we used to call them, Kai. They're a real operation now. And we thought last year was sort of not a mirage, but just like a breakthrough magic carpet ride. But Eric Olin just continues to prove us wrong. And he's got an awesome team that They actually pressure.
Mhm.
This is one of the more fascinating handicaps because there's two coaches that mix and match defenses as much as anyone in the country. Definitely a good live betting game, just a specific niche there. But I like the boys from San Diego to keep this one close, actually.
Yeah, best UC San Diego team ever in the Kim Palm era. They've been
Better than
D1
last
like
year.
5 years.
I did not think that was possible. Yeah.
Yeah, they're top 100 right now, top 90 right now. No major wins, but taking care of business. Utah State's just a tough place to play, though. They're awesome at home. They're still undefeated, one of the few teams that still is undefeated in the country. I do think the Tritons can compete on the glass. I really think they get in your jock defensively. You mentioned they're pressuring a little bit. They do, I guess, in the half court. I think Olin really switches up defenses, plays a lot of zone, I believe. So they do force jump shots. I think Utah State's a little bit weaker shooting this year than in past years for Utah State teams, but I do think UC San Diego can keep it close, Jim, despite being on the road. Their ball handling is key. They just don't make mistakes.
Yeah, they're close to the top of the country in turnover margin, like the Monte Force versus the few times they give it up. So they're getting more shots than you, which is important and sustainable over more of a longer sample with the shot volume. I just don't love the spot. The Sunday at Idaho to Tuesday at Utah State is like kind of a weird turnaround for them. That spooks me a little bit. And Utah State has been destroying the lesser competition. The problem is maybe UC San Diego isn't lesser. Like they're a top 100 team in KenPom
Yeah,
right
right.
now.
Right.
They're extremely fun to watch. Aniwa Tate Jones, the New Zealander, he's like kind of the do everything 6'6" point wing. He's fascinating. And then Magai, the shooter, he's just bombing away at all times. So that is a team I recommend watching just from an enjoyment standpoint. I think you will like have a good time watching UC San Diego. But I'm going to stay away from this one just because of that travel turnaround and going to elevation.
I will too. I'm going to bet the over, just to kind of an aside there. I think there's
Okay.
a bajillion points in that game, which should get over whatever the total is at close. Just a note on Utah State, non-conference games since 2016. I'm sorry, as a home team, since 2016, 74-50 against the spread, covering by 2.5 points. I think that spans three coaches. So
Yeah.
it's just hard to
Yeah.
go in there and win. And they usually just roll you out of the gym. And every coach knows the advantage of the altitude, and they all have deep teams. And Calhoun's doing the same recipe successfully this year. So, in terms
Yeah,
of the
Matt,
other,
I just
yeah, go ahead.
glanced at my numbers for what I make this. I will be on the over as well. So I'm with you.
UC San Diego is a chameleon in terms of how they play, but they also will get themselves into somewhat of a hurry against better teams they probably shouldn't do. A Grand Canyon at Louisiana Tech. Kai, we like the boys of Ruston. They had some injuries to start the year. Daniel Bacho up front, the Baron in the paint against a Lopes team that has been sort of not as good as we thought, but still very, very talented, very good, very capable. This game looking to open probably around a field goal. La Tech, the short home favorite. KenPom has it -2. My numbers have it somewhat in that neighborhood. I don't know. I'm not going to bet this one probably, but any take here?
Yeah, I think I saw even pick. I think the spread's out early for this game, I believe.
This is
Yeah,
Monday. Yeah, this
pick.
is, yep. So tomorrow. Yeah.
Pick right now. So yeah, the market likes, well, the openers like Grand Canyon. Yeah, they're not quite as good as I was hoping this season. But La Tech has severe depth issues. I'm
Same
not
as last
in love
season.
with
Same
La
thing.
Tech. Yeah, then ball handling is a real issue for them. Um, that's bad against a Grand Canyon squad that really forces turnovers. I think Bacho, excuse me, has a good day. I don't think Grand Canyon necessarily has a strong matchup for him, but I'm not sure La Tech has an answer for TGF, Tyon Grant Foster, or Jacoby Coles. I think he's a matchup issue too for them. So I would lean towards Grand Canyon. I would love to get 3, but it seems like we're going to have to deal with pick.
Yep. Grant Foster is worrisome to me right now. Like he's been horrible this year. He's
really
coming off
inefficient. Late start to the year. Yeah, not been good.
Yeah, they almost beat Georgia, hung around, lost by 5 in Atlanta on Saturday, despite Grant Foster shooting 2 for 17 from the field.
Sure.
He's at 32% on the year from 3. He's shooting less than 18%. Like he just can't make a shot right now. And they're still kind of competent. And I noted I think they're 5-0 against the spread since they got Duke Brennan back in the lineup, the 7-footer. He's not like a shot blocker, but he's big. He takes up space. He's a little harder to finish over than some of their more ground bound. Like Coles is not a vertical presence at the bucket. So he at least helps them in that department. But this is, again, kind of an odd spot, like a 48-hour after marquee up game in an NBA arena against Georgia. You go to Ruston, which is just kind of an odd place to play. And I like a vacuum. I would like to bet Grand Canyon, but just kind of a little bit spooked again by the spot.
Jim, you kind of laid the breadcrumbs to under. I was kind of going to say I like under in that game. Seattle at Western Kentucky. Seattle's like a team that we all thought would be like awesome this season. I'm not straight saying they're not awesome, but we've not really followed them because they haven't been. Their schedule's been pretty light. They haven't played many games. A couple non-D1s in there. Nothing notable. Had a couple of weird losses. Again, still very capable. But Kai, I think the Hilltops are. I'm not saying better than last season under Steve Lutz, but man, they've been really good. And their talent, their roster looks like a bona fide Power Five conference team, and that's a tough place to go in and win, especially come from Seattle going to Bowling Green.
I think they are better than last year. I think they're awesome. They've been great this year. Their defense is really locked in, and their transition offense hasn't gone anywhere. In the half court, they can stagnate, but they look to get out in the run, fast break as many times as they can, much like under Lutz. Yeah, Seattle really has scoring issues. They do have some shooters, and they do get to the line. WKU will hack you. They will send you to the free throw line. That is their one matchup edge Seattle has in this game. But I don't want to go against the Hilltoppers. They're coming off an overtime game. It's been a couple days. I don't really think that's going to be a big deal. But I lean towards Western Kentucky's, depending on what the spread is.
Yeah, I'll also lean Western Kentucky. Seattle's defense, I know it's against a tough schedule, top 50 schedule per KenPom, but 358th in 2-point percentage defense. Like teams are gashing them inside the arc. And it's not like they're, forcing teams to shoot over the top all the time and like only giving up a few layups here and there. It's a problem. Like they're not really able to stop you at the bucket. Kai, what's Chatfield, the guy that left and went to Iowa State?
Iowa State.
I think he was
there you go. Yeah,
really important. Yeah. You lose a guy of that magnitude in the paint at the mid-major level, it's tough to replace that, and they haven't been able to do it. So I think Western Kentucky can get this game pinballing up and down a little bit. It's an odd travel for Seattle going over all the way across to Western Kentucky for a one-off game. So I like the Hilltops.
They also lost Kobe Williamson. I don't know where he's been. I don't know if he's hurt. He hasn't played all year, and that's pretty important on the defensive end as well.
We should mention Moncrief missed last game for Seattle, but I think it was just a rest against non-D1.
Non-D1, right. I had that too.
If you happen to see that, don't panic.
KenPom has that -6. That's one that I bet that's like -8 on the opener. If it's -6, I will be a top backer. I don't think it's going to be -6. Just my hunch. Seattle did play well at Duke. Kind of a sleepy spot for Duke, but still did travel across multiple time zones against a very talented team. Played feisty as a dog, but this is a different type of game where you actually have to play within a touchdown to probably cover. So speaking of covering meaning nothing, let's talk about the live dogs of the week. Bark, bark. Sorry, that was kind of a puny small doodle dog.
Sounded like your dog, Georgie.
Yeah, Jim George got more dog in him than that. I don't appreciate that comment, but whatever, it's fine. Last week, good for us. Really good.
Good ones. Mm-hmm.
I just processed I've been betting against North Dakota State like every week the last 3, but I did have them, as we talked about, as a money line bet here because they make every shot they take. I mean, just an insane team right now. And then Charleston, Hofstra also won. Way to go, us. But Eastern Washington, no dice. Got a kind of a tough get-right spot there against Washington, unfortunately. So, again, not a ton of options this week. I like the option, Jim, that you picked out here at South Alabama against TCU on Monday. Weird scheduling by Richie Riley and USA. They're going to go back-to-back after playing at East Texas A&M, the artist formerly known as Texas A&M Commerce. Going to do a little back-to-back, kind of test yourself for the postseason format. Go to TCU the day after. Obviously, the back-to-back favors TCU, but I think the USA matchup, the way they play with so many zone schemes, I think they're a team that actually can play well in a short rest spot. And TCU's offense, Kai, doesn't scare me at all. So, plus 12, I could see USA getting some jumpers to fall, kind of scaring the Horny Frogs.
Yeah, maybe TCU takes a little bit of money for the back-to-back. I think a lot of bettors would probably go
value.
TCU
I like
there.
That.
Yeah, but TCU's super vulnerable, man. And USA, they have the blueprint of these money line specials. They shoot a ton of threes, top 10 3-point attempt rate in the country. That's high variance. That's what we like. And they grime it up on defense. Sit back, slow you down, throw some zones out there. TCU, a little better shooting than last season, but still can't really shoot. And of course, Frankie Collins is done for the year for TCU. So a lot pointing towards South Alabama besides that back-to-back spot.
Yeah, it's really weird. I don't know why they did that to themselves with the schedule, but yeah, it's a disappointing power conference team that can't really score. And I know Kai said they're a little bit better shooting I watch them and it's like these guys are tossing up prayers. Like they're just hoping when they throw it towards the rim. And South Alabama gives up the highest rate of threes in the country. So Kai mentioned how much they shoot threes. They also give up a ton. Low possession game, tons of threes. That's variance, baby. That's what we love to see. And I just don't trust TCU at all right now. So I think the South Alabama angle has some legs to it, Matt. I'll probably sprinkle on that.
I think I will too. The only concern is obviously on the glass. If Uday and the freshman David Punch, kind of a fun brick house type dude. I mean, USA is going to get bullied on the glass, but against the zone, you can force a lot of threes. You force long rebounds. You can mitigate your lack of sides if those misses are long ones and get those into quick points the other way. So that's, I think, the recipe for the Jaguars.
Matt, would you call him and Uday their 1-2 punch in the front court?
1-2 punch? Jimbo.
Come on, let's go.
Like that. We turn the page to Tuesday. James Madison, Duke's going to Wake Forest, the high major that I continue to back in a get right spot every game because every game they're supposed to get right, but maybe they're just not very good. Do we just keep fading this kind of falling knife here? KenPom has this +7. I mean, talent-wise, Wake Forest we thought was like top tier, but James Madison, one of those teams, kind of like Western Kentucky, ton of super talented transfers, has a high variance type of outcome, you would think. Kai, any interest at all? I feel like the value here won't be good enough for me to bite at it, but it's worth discussing just because Wake Forest is like a team that gets money consistently. You probably get an extra 20, 30 cents of value on the money line from people betting Wake Forest, but I just don't see it right now.
Yeah, there's no way my number will make it 7, unfortunately. But yeah, Wake is just not it. Outside the top 200 in offense is just not what I expected from this team heading into the season. And Preston Spradlin's a great coach for James Madison, and they take a lot of threes, just like South Alabama, top 30 rate. If they can protect the rock, they can handle the ball because Wake Forest does pressure you. They're still pretty good on defense. I think they can hang around.
Yeah, there's risk that this is like the Eastern Washington thing where team that hasn't made any shots all season suddenly goes 50% from three on decent volume because Wake Forest has been abysmal. They're bottom 15 in the country in 3-point percentage, and it's all guys that have made threes in the past. Hildreth, Salas, Friedrichsen, like those guys are good shooters. Maybe not Hildreth, he kind of shoots sky balls, but Salas and Friedrichsen especially are not making anything, and at some point those are going to start to go in. So as much as I'm tempted here, I think James Madison's awesome and a potential winner of the Sun Belt, but again, value's not great, and I am scared of that shooting regression coming all at once for the Deeks.
Yeah. Jim, I like your throw in here. Doesn't really fit into a neat category, but we are in the business of giving you winners on this program, so we have to mention value where we find it. Kind of a cross match between Power Conference mid-major Drake, K-State in Kansas City, so a quasi home game for the Purple Kittens, Kai. Drake, we kind of forgot about. Remember how awesome? I mean, they still are awesome, but they haven't played a meaningful game since November 24th, right? They beat Vanderbilt to win that MTE. Then they beat Georgia Southern in a sleepy Saturday game that no one paid attention to. They kind of messed around at Valpo, almost lost at Valpo, actually. Kind of had to withstand a late run. That was December 5th. And then we're off for 7 days, played a non-D1 team, and now they're at K-State. So I think it's sort of maybe you actually still have value on Drake if you thought they're awesome because no one's paying attention to them. And if you think K-State's sort of a paper tiger akin to Wake Forest, maybe you just kind of punch at that. I like this angle here. Hopefully they're a dog. We'll see if the market has the stones to bet Drake to a favorite, but KenPom has it +2 right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone wants to bet on Drake, period.
Right.
They're undefeated. They look awesome.
I do too.
Ben McCollum's awesome. This team's awesome. K-State doesn't scare me. It's going to be no bargain. I'll say that, though.
Yeah, I kind of think it might. I think Drake's just better. I like having watched both these teams. Kansas State's a little inflated because they got to play the Pine Bluff Matador defense and score 1.5 points per possession. Every other game, they kind of suck. And they don't look like they have any fun together. They don't fit. They just kicked a Chora off the team.
Yeah,
there were rumors that McDaniel might leave the team. He hasn't. He's still there. But there's just such bad vibes behind the scenes. And it's like the complete opposite with Drake. The team looks like they're having a blast. It's guys that came from Northwest Missouri State. They're like, now we're awesome at D1 too. Look how cool we are. I'm going to be betting Drake even if they're -1. I think they're better, and I think they're going to out execute a team that seems to hate each other.
We do talk about vibe handicapping sometimes behind the scenes, and this is you could do a whole 2,000 word expose of David Goliath of like the new player era team versus the old team, and just like how these two teams are microcosms of the good and the pure versus the bad and the evil and money. And that's kind of what K-State's been, scrounged into because of all the bags they dropped to get this all-star team that really isn't that good. It's just not good. So we'll see.
Yeah, a lot of square pegs and round holes for
yes.
K-State.
Although it doesn't give me the warm and fuzzies fading a team that's been off 10 days since a loss that's, objectively the more talented team here. So I do worry there could be an angry smash of sorts. Let's go to the favorites. We were 1-1 last week. Houston did what Houston usually does. Now, they've not been as dominant as a favorite as years past, but they took care of their business.
Well, they did the odd thing where they covered the KenPom line of minus 19 or 20, but they got bet to 27 in the market and did not cover that. Like that was absurd.
I had them as a cover on my.
They won by 20.
20.
Yeah, won by 20, right?
Okay.
Yeah, they got up crazy big. It was just a low scoring slop fest.
Yeah, if you found minus 19 Houston, congrats on your 1-point winner, and let me know what bookie you operate through. I'd like to be a new customer of that shop. And then Michigan, frustrating. Just a fun team, but frustrating team. The turnovers and Danny Wolf, like very Jekyll and Hyde. We don't even throw behind the back globetrotter passes in the last 2 minutes of high leverage games. This week, couple of spots that we picked out. Jim, you wrote down UTEP Tarleton, the Fighting Billy Clydes on Monday, and then Texas Tech versus Oral Roberts. That one I like. And I threw in a third bonus one, which seems stupid, and I'm going to probably regret it, but I'm going to go back to the poisonous well of East Carolina one more time. They are hosting FIU. Mike Schwartz, after the game, they got absolutely boat raced by UNA last time out. He said, "We are not a good team right now. There will be major, and I mean major, adjustments made." And that could be bad or it could be good. I kind of like the matchup here with FIU in a helter-skelter game, a team with more, I think, talent, frankly. So that was where I leaned, Jim. Maybe it doesn't qualify as a favorite. It's only an 8-point spread. Market does like ECU.
They are giving points. That's
I know, but like usually we focus on the double digits, more of the smashy favorites. But the market bets them pretty. I think that's going to be a minus 10. But anyway, so off my ECU soapbox, Jim, UTEP, Texas Tech. You like both those?
Yeah, the UTEP ones all match up. They're number 2 in the country at forcing turnovers. Tarleton is dead last in the country at turnover rate, over 30%. That is insane. They could turn the ball over 30 times in this game. It's also going to be a massive walk to the charity stripe on both teams. Both teams foul a lot defensively, and UTEP is the categorically better free throw shooting team, which is really weird to say. That has not been the case in the past under Golding. Typically a bricky team from the line, but they actually make them this year. So I think they end up running out Tarleton. And then, Texas Tech, awful loss, home, playing a team that cannot guard a soul in Oral Roberts. I will probably lay that, Kai, but I bet market bets it to like 31, which is going to be different than the KenPom spread of 26.
Yeah. Man, Tarleton spread's too big. It's like 17 in the actual market right now. So I might bet on Tarleton because I think it's going to be
cockroach Texans. Maybe
it's going to be an ugly game.
They're not been a cockroach.
They're going to force. To start the year, they were not. They were just a
they're getting better. If Freddie Hicks ever debuts, we'll see. He's always like next day. They'll force
like whenever they post pictures from practice, he's like featured.
Yeah,
it's like, is he playing or not?
Yeah, that one's weird. Texas Tech should kill Oral Roberts. Do I have the Stones to lay 26? I don't know. It's 26 right now. It'll definitely take money, like Jim said. A couple other ones I'll just mention, Matthew, and we don't have to talk about them if you don't want to. Just Charleston laying 3 against Wofford stood out to me. I think Charleston covers that just from a gut perspective. And then Colorado State against Radford. Radford doing the Utah to Colorado State travel from Saturday to
back to
Monday or Tuesday. Kind of a weird. They're just hanging out there. I don't know. Lean towards the Rams there. Yeah.
Colorado State coming from Vegas off that loss. You could see them being very angry.
Yeah.
Actually, let's just go right to some of the additional spots that we wrote down. Last week, we talked about the Rutgers and Brown spots, and we warned you about the tax you would be paying to bet those teams in terms of the discrepancy between the KenPom, more analytically pure line, and the market line. But they both panned out. And Rutgers, as we've seen many Big Ten teams at home, play to a much, much, much higher number than you think. And then Brown in the crosstown rivalry against Rhode Island survived 2 OT scares for those of you backing the Brown Bears. And then I also bet on the Cal hosting Cornell and the East to West Coast thing, but Cal stinks and Cornell's awesome. And so when you have a good team against a bad team, the spot doesn't matter sometimes. So loser for me and others out there. Sorry. This week, DePaul 0-1 in conference play, looking at that first marquee banner win in the Chris Holtmann era. Double digits at St. John's. Now, we're not saying they're going to beat the Johnnies, but I do like the angle here. The Johnnies have been a little bit overpriced, in my opinion, in the market recently. I just think they don't quite have all of the synchronicity that we thought they had to start the year, Kai. I like Holtmann in sort of a dog spot. And I think he's got enough depth, not enough talent, maybe not be at St. John's caliber, but enough depth where they won't get run off the floor. A couple, enough ball handlers. I think they'll be fine.
I think DePaul's going to be a fun little dog, yeah, in Big East play, and especially double digits because they can shoot. It's almost like the money line live dog special, like every single game, because they take so many threes. They number 2 in the country in percentage of points scored from the 3-point line.
They used all their bullets last game though, Kai. 17 of 33 against Wichita State. I worry that was just
40% for the year. They're shooting 40% of the year. They all can shoot. He literally recruited guys who can shoot at every position. It was smart, really smart. Can they stop St. John's? No, I don't think so. But I do think they can hang around with their shooting.
Yeah, that's like a high variance one where, I mean, maybe you take a look at money line or something. I don't think they're going to win, but 0-1 team that takes a ton of threes and makes a ton of threes, 7th in the country in 3-point attempt rate and 11th in 3-point percentage. Like that is just marksman. It's North Dakota State-esque. I almost put them on that hallowed ground. But yeah, I think St. John's is going to have too good of a game plan, and DePaul doesn't have a plan B. So despite that being an okay spot, I'm not going to jump in.
Yeah, Jim, I had the UNLV spot going to Dayton written down as well, but then Dayton, it's just sort of, I looked at UNLV's roster a little closer. Man, they just don't have bodies right now. Like I know there was a team that randomly rose against awesome teams last season and played really well down the stretch, got some crazy wins, looked like a tournament team, but didn't get in because they didn't actually have the consistency and the body of work to do that. But yeah, them going to Dayton, that could be sort of a Dayton sleepy. You find yourself in a dogfight down 2 with 5 to play, and UNLV has that potential. I just don't know if this version of UNLV has that juice. So I cross that off, but I like what you're looking at, especially with Dayton just off that big win against Marquette, which pretty much punches their ticket in the tournament. Like, unless they really shit the bed during A-10 play, like that's a tournament resume with a bullet.
Don't count that out. But I'm just worried about Dayton like having a little hangover effect from that hurts the spot for wanting to fade UNLV. UNLV's been bad.
They have been bad. Sorry, you were saying fade UNLV. I was thinking actually UNLV. Okay, gotcha. Okay, I'm with you. Yeah, so the other one here is Siena against the Bonnies, who have been a covered darling. And I've just been sleepy. I feel like I have this team rated properly, but they just continue to find ways to cover. I don't know if they're actually as good as the ATS record indicates, Kai. I feel like their schedule is a bunch of teams that I don't like, and maybe they just actually haven't played anybody good or teams that were all overvalued to say. But yeah, so Siena, Jerry McNamara, they play some zone. They had a couple of decent JUCO players, New York, Western New York rivalry, so to speak. I can see maybe Siena catching the Bonnie sleepy. And that one, that's on Tuesday, right? Yeah, Tuesday.
Yeah, I don't think the Bonnies are quite as good as their ATS record is either. I think they're solid, but I think they're getting a little too high up there in the ratings. I mean, Siena's not fun to back by any means, but yeah, I lean your way for sure.
I kind of like this spot for Siena, even though I don't like them as a team. But they've got a couple good guards. DeSante Bowen was out for St. Bonaventure, basically only point guard. They're still able to beat Providence because Hopkins was a late scratch, and Providence just sucks. So, maybe beating them is not that much of a great shake. But it is coming off a big neutral court win against Big East team. I think there could be a little bit of a weird letdown, and this could be a good environment. Like Siena gets a pretty strong crowd. Albany's not Western New York, is it, Matt?
Sorry. Yeah. Sorry.
Okay. I was like, wait a second.
You. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks. Thank you for correcting me on that.
Yeah.
LSU. LSU is back home after losing to our ponies, who've been kind of good, by the way. Shouts to the Pony Express, Andy Enfeld and co. Nice little squad out there in Big D. But good team this year in Baton Rouge, inconsistent. It's a great spot. They're playing Stetson, who's horrible. Like, we thought they'd be down this year after making their turnaround, but they're like really, really bad. Now, will LSU look stupid against Stetson zone? Certainly. See LSU being tight at the half, but LSU's done that thing where they've put like massive runs on bad teams. Maybe they smash Stetson there. I did have that one circled as well. I have no interest in backing that one though officially. Jim, do you?
No, not really. LSU's not a great home like big favorite to me,
They
like the
take too many dump
McMahon
shots. I
era.
just don't trust that team as a favorite.
Yep, I think the spot's good. Like these high major teams back home, awful loss against a bye game opponent. Like you get a motivated favorite. I just don't
Yep.
know if that matters enough. Like LSU, are they good enough and disciplined enough to consistently whip teams? And I'm not sure they are, Kai, and I'm not going to find out. But it's an SEC team in non-conference. Remember that.
Yeah, Stetson's horrible. So don't bet them.
And I'll throw one more in there. This is Monday, by the way. I crossed it off because I just was like, yeah, I pass. But Montana goes to UNI, and Northern Iowa is going to play. I think they played Friday, and now they're going to play Monday. Kind of a quick, weird turnaround, and they're dealing with some injuries. They don't have a ton of depth. And Montana they've been good, not great, but they have a lot of talent and a ton of upside. And maybe this is sort of a spot where they randomly play really well. Their pieces all come together. We talked about how Malik Moore, the Pepperdine transfer, has like wildly turned into their best player despite Money Williams there, Brandon Whitney there, a litany of other talented guys there. That actually might be a better money line inclusion if I could go back and revise. But just one more courtesy consideration. I think Montana at UNI could be a close one in Cedar Falls.
Montana's good. I'm excited to see
Yeah.
them get in conference play where they're playing more equals. The schedule's been really tough.
Yeah, the South Dakota State one looks great, but again, that was a very fortunate cover because there was no Clough on that one, and they shot the lights out, and South Dakota State did not. So, but I still think they are good. The Utah State game, I think, kind of proves that. All right, quick review. Let's quickly take out the trash, I should say. Last week, we discussed some bad teams doing what we expect them to do. UMKC, who I still think is terrible, they did come through for us.
Beat Portland.
Can't trust that team anymore. There are too many injuries. Anderson Copp's out here and there. Jamar Brown's out here and there. So
No, Brown's back. They're good. They came through for me on Saturday. Yeah.
But Kopp was out. Kopp was out.
And Copp was out. So I don't trust this team. Like if you want him that game, great. I think I had 2 covers on this year. That's awesome. Put him behind you. That portfolio will no longer have UMKC the rest of the year, unless Anderson Copp is back and cooking, which I have not seen the last week or so. And then we had the Duke Incarnate Word under that stupid spot for Duke where they had to come back and play a game 48 hours later after the Louisville conference game. And Incarnate Word did cover as well on the side.
Yeah, I was on that first half. I thought the first half was
terrifying.
A great look, and it came through easily. It was awesome.
I had full game. I was sweating when it got to 30 with 4 to play. But shouts to the boys of San Antonio for getting it done. Okay, this week, Towson at Robert Morris. A team in Towson who we all loved, wanted to be good this year. Pat, scary, as we love him. The Bostonian who's doing great things in Baltimore. This year's team's bad. They're hurt. They don't have depth. And they lack just kind of that physical punch or any offensive skill at Robert Morris. Andy Toole's got some talented JUCO guys this season. I think it's a better version than we've seen in years past. Again, this is all trash. We're not trying to hype up or beautify this thing, Kai, but I do lean Bobby Moe at home. -2 if you want to get involved into some dumpster diving.
I'm not touching Towson the rest of the year. Something's wrong with this team. They're broken. It might be a chemistry issue because they just got the doors blown off them against Duquesne. They were 10 for 35 from 2 in that game. 10 for 35 from 2. Something is drastically wrong. They got smoked by UMBC. I don't get it. I don't know what's really happened to this team, but they're bad. I would not feel comfortable backing them against any team in the country right now.
Yeah, at this rate, this would be the first Pat Scary team in 15 years at Towson to not rank in the top 50 of offensive rebound rate. Like that's what they do every single year. Yep. They pound you on the glass, and this team's not really doing that. They're good, but not great in that area, and they haven't fixed anything else. Like they can't shoot, they can't make layups. Like Kai said, if we're vibe handicapping, the Towson vibes are horrific. And I think Robert Morris is at least a little more competent with Cam Woods back in the lineup. He gives them a lot more offensive pop. When he was out, they couldn't score. But I would definitely lean hard towards Robert Morris in that game.
So of note, the Duquesne game was played at LeBron James Arena. And so Drew Joyce was never going to lose that game. Like the stars, referees, forces, you never. So I give him a pass for that one, but still 4-7 on the year when you lose at home to UMBC by 13. I kind of think they've mailed it until conference play. And even then, I'm not sure if they have any bounce back potential at this point, especially if Tejada and May are going to be shells themselves or just non-existent altogether. That's trash. We don't need to talk anything else. Let's move on. Last section here real quickly. I want to spotlight a few more spots that I saw as I went through the card for the upcoming week. Two specifically, Kai, get your take on East Coast to West Coast trips. Merrimack going to Stanford, Florida A&M going to Utah. I think both teams lose by 30 plus easily. And I like Merrimack relatively. I like Florida A&M relatively. I hate these trips. These games mean absolutely nothing. They're playing two coaches in Craig Smith and Kyle Smith, who pretty consistently put these mid majors, low majors in the grinder and win by margin. So those will be two, I think, auto fades for me. Just want to throw that out there.
Yeah, definitely Florida A&M. Yeah, I think Utah smashes them. I don't like fading Merrimack as a big dog. I just think their junk zone, man, is so hard to prepare for and so funky. You've never seen it. So I'm not super comfortable with that one.
No. That's fair.
Where are you guys at on Utah overall? Like they've been pretty good, and their defense is good because they're huge positionally.
So
they're one of the biggest teams in the country, but they've mostly gotten by just blowing out teams at home at elevation. They haven't really done a whole lot against good teams yet. But I'm coming around. I'm coming around on the Utes.
Yeah, I will be on the Utes for sure. You're right. The Merrimack thing kind of does scare me. Historically, they haven't actually played well against premier teams. I just don't think Gallo cares about those games. Like, he really tries to save his bullets for conference play, as we're starting to see so far in the MAAC. So, again, weird spot, weird schedule. Let's transition into our recap while you're all here. Picks, winners, predictions. My first two, I'm going to go with those two I mentioned, Stanford and Utah. I'm still kind of pondering as I look through the rest that we discussed here what I'm officially taking. I will go South Alabama money line for a third official for me. And then I mentioned my ECU versus FIU in the favorites. Pondering Drake, Jim, I'll go to you. What's your official slate here? I might add that might be my fifth official. So 4 confirmed, 5th on the fence.
Yeah, my favorite bet of these 2 days, Monday, Tuesday, is Drake. I will be on the Bulldogs, just watching them out execute a team that, like I said, does not seem to like each other or really be that well coached. Sorry, Mr. Tang, but you don't look it right now, K-State. So Drake, and then of the big games, definitely Seton Hall. If it's double digits, I'll be backing them against Villanova. And I think I'm going to be able to get there on Florida as long as they're laying 3 or less. Maybe it'll end up being 5 or something because Florida's just rolling, but hopefully 3 or less, and I can be on the Gators. I'm going to sprinkle South Alabama money line with you, Matthew. I think it's high enough variance game against a bad favorite. UTEP and Texas Tech in the favorites. I think they can blow out, although Kai mentioning the actual price on UTEP, maybe not. It's a little high, so I guess I'll withdraw that or go half unit or something. And then Siena. I think the spot's really good against St. Bonaventure. That could be ugly. St. Bonaventure's way better, but the spot's there, and if Bowen's still out for Bonnies, I think that hurts them.
Yeah, not too dissimilar from Jim. Seton Hall against Villanova. I'm going South Alabama as well against TCU. I do think Texas Tech takes care of business and smashes Oral Roberts. I think Utah smashes Florida A&M.
Yeah,
I do like the Siena spot against the Bonnies, and I will go with Drake. I just have to. I love this team.
There you go. I'll add there you go.
Right until they die. Yeah.
Every night there's always one bet that's like the obvious bet that people are like, some people are like, oh, that's a public bet, which means nothing, by the way. But it wins, and you're just like, oh, that was going to win the whole time. Why didn't I try? That's this Drake bet. So I'm with you. I'm joining that. So I officially have 5. We also mentioned a couple of totals in there, folks. So go back, pay attention. We're more in the sides business on this program, but when we have totals takes, we're not afraid to toss them out there. That's all we have. Come back and join us next Monday as we preview what should be a pretty weird next week slate of games, frankly, with the Christmas holiday break looming. Maybe some fun spots, a little Diamond Head Classic conversation. We'll see. Until that time, this is the BBOC. Matt Cox, Kai McKeon, Jim Root from the 3-Man